Now we're going to get a little more complicated if we have more than one square root sign in the equation. So for example, what did I use? Square root of y minus 8 plus the square root of y equals 2. Let me just make sure I copied that right. Yeah, okay. So in this one, you can't isolate the radical. Even if I move the square root of y to the other side of the equation, I'll still have a radical on each side. You can square it right now, but I've found that the algebra is easier if you move one or both of the either one of the radicals to the other side of the equation. So for no good reason, I'm going to subtract root y and put it on this side of the equation, and then I'm going to square things. It just makes the math easier, like I said. So this will be y minus 8. And this will be 2 plus root y. Oh, sorry, minus root y, because I subtracted root y from both sides. Now I'm going to square it. Gets a little bit ugly on the right-hand side. Not too bad, because it's just a square root of y. All right, left-hand side, the square root and the square undo each other. Inverse functions, you get y minus 8. Right-hand side, you have to FOIL this out. So it may, like I said, be useful to write it again. And now I'm going to square this out rather than have that square there. Okay? So 2 times 2 is 4. I have negative 2 root y. Negative 2 root y is negative 4 root y. And the negative root y times the negative root y is plus y. Okay, remember, because they're both in the square root, one breaks out. Okay, now what I'm going to do is isolate this radical and square again. In other words, I need to subtract the 4 and subtract the y. Oh, that one's nice, because that makes my y's go away. Alright, so if I subtract the y, I have no y's. If I subtract the 4, I have negative 12, equaling negative 4 root y. Okay, and now I'm going to square both sides. On the left side, I get 144. On the right side, don't forget to square him too. You'll get 16y. If you divide both sides by 16, I think you end up with 9. Sorry, got a bit squishy there. Okay, let's check it back into the original and make sure that it works. So 9 minus 8 is 1, the square root of 1, plus the square root of 9 equals 2. Oh, sorry, running into that. Okay, so 1 plus 3 equals 2. I don't think so. But this, again, is clearly an extraneous root, because if it was 1 minus 3, it would be a negative 2. The numbers are matching up. I didn't mess up the algebra. Because this is extraneous, this equation has no solution. So I'm going to say no solution. By the way, you'll note I do not use empty set at this stage. Empty set has a lot of mathematical stuff that goes with it, and so I don't use it until you're quite a bit further along in your math career. But if your teacher uses the empty set, feel free. All right, let's try one that's a little more difficult. Okay, so this one's number 4. And which one did I use? Square root of 2x plus 5. Minus the square root of x minus 1 equals 2. Yeah, okay. Again, I have 2 square roots on one side. I could square right away, but it's easier mathematically to move one of them, so I'm going to add this one to both sides. I do that, I end up with root 2x plus 5 equaling 2 plus root x minus 1. Now squaring this is going to be a little more complicated, but here we go. So I'm going to square both sides. Alright, left-hand side, that's easy. Square root and square undo each other, inverse functions, done. Right-hand side, I'm going to have to FOIL that out. So, I'm just going to write it out so I remember that. Alright, 2 times 2 is 4. 2 root x minus 1 plus 2 root x minus 1 is 4 root x minus 1. And x minus 1 times root x minus 1 is x minus 1. Alright, again I'm going to isolate the radicals, so I'm going to subtract these guys and that guy from both sides. So let's do the x's first. 2x minus x is just x. I have 4 minus 1 is 3. 5, and I'm going to subtract 3 is 2 equals 4 times root x minus 1. Okay, now again I'm going to need to square both sides. So here we go. Okay, remember when you're squaring this one to square the 4 as well. So you have 16 times your x minus 1. Okay, remember on this side that you're going to need to FOIL it out. So that's x squared plus 4x plus 4, and on this side, 16 times x minus 1. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and multiply those out because I need to get everything onto one side. Now again, remember I just like my leading term to be positive, so I'm going to subtract 16x and add 16 to both sides. So then I end up with x squared minus 12x and plus 20 equals 0. I'm going to run out of room, so I'm going to erase the top part, but I'm going to factor this, and I'm going to get x minus 10 and x minus 2 equaling 0. So don't want to erase the very top part because I need to be able to check it, so I'm going to erase the second line here onwards. Okay, so that'll give me x minus 10, x minus 2 equals 0. Don't forget to keep writing the equal 0. It is an equation. All right. Two numbers that multiply to 0, at least one of them has to be 0. So if x minus 10 is 0, then x is 10. If x minus 2 is 0, then x is 2. And I'm going to take both of those and plug them back into the original to make sure that we don't have extraneous roots. All right, so if I plug in 10 first, I get 20 plus 5 will be root 25. Minus 10 minus 1 is 9, square root of 9. So that's 5 minus 3 is 2. That one's fine. All right, let's do 2 as well. I'll do that one in purple. So if I plug 2 in here, I get 4 plus 5 is root 9. Oops, that's a 9. And if I plug, where am I? Oh, 2 minus 1 is 1. So minus the square root of 1. That's 3 minus 1 is 2. So that one's good too. Okay, so that'll give you a little bit of practice. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make one more video that just does a few more of these. They get really messy really quickly. So I want to do a couple of the messy ones again. I'll do one like number 3 and then 1 or 2 more like number 4. Just to give you a little chance to practice. So if you want to practice some in between watching this one and the next video, then you go ahead and do that. And then, like I said, I'll tackle some of the tougher ones here in the next one. See you in a few minutes.